You can draw this in Procreate. Here's another super valuable Flotastic Procreate tutorial. I took a long time developing this, and I've packed it with some really Flotastic techniques, like creating your own custom brush from scratch and using the bloom feature in Procreate to make the clouds we'll be painting even more stunning. I also have great news. I've added a new brush to the Procreate treasure chest, so be sure to check the weekly newsletter to grab it, or if you haven't signed up yet, go to freefromflow.com to get the entire pack, so you'll be ready to create your own beautiful bay. While we work on a canvas of 3000 by 2000 pixels, you can find the link to the free color palette in the description as always. And then if you're ready, let's have some fun. Let's start by dropping in a color for our sky. We'll grab the first color in the first row and just drag it on there. And then we are going to create a gradient. We'll do that with a soft brush. We'll go to the airbrushing brushes and then use the soft brush here at the top and then grab this light color, the second color in the first row. The opacity of the brush is at 80%. Let's set the size to something like 20%. And then let's go over the center area upwards a little to create a nice soft transition. And then again, making it even lighter here at the bottom. Go for something like this. And then if you want to make it even softer, you can go to the magic wand here to adjustments, then to Gaussian blur, and you can slide to the right on your screen a little bit, like let's say 20%, and then tap the magic wand again. Next, we'll create our water layer. We'll make a new layer on top, so we'll go to the two little squares and then we'll tap the plus. And then for our color, let's grab this one again, first color in the first row. And then let's go to the selection tool, the S-shaped ribbon, set it to rectangle and then turn on color fill. And now we can start here at the bottom and then we can go up like this. And then you can easily check how big your area of water will be. Let's go for something just below like the halfway point, something like this, and I'll let go. Then tap the S-shaped ribbon again. And now because this horizon, it's very far away and it shouldn't be that crisp. I want it to be a little bit blurry. So we'll go to the magic wand again, then to Gaussian blur, and then slide to the right, just a little. Let's go for 3%. Then we'll go to the layer menu and tap this layer. And then you can turn on alpha lock. Now we can only paint on the shape. And I want to start adding some lighter color there. We'll use the soft brush again, but this time we'll use the third color in the first row. And let's go over this top area. You don't have to go over the water itself. You can go above it a little bit and add a lighter touch. Something like this. Should be fine for now. And then we'll make another layer on top. Let's tap the plus. And then for our color, we are going to add the grass layer. So we need a base grass color. So let's pick this one, for instance. These are our grass colors. Let's use the third one. And then for the brush, doesn't really matter. We are just going to lay down the base. We can use the monoline brush, for instance. Let's check the size. Well, let's make it a little bit smaller, maybe 10% opacity at 100. And now let's start here a little bit below the horizon. Then we'll go down here and then back up like this. And then drag the color underneath that line. So now we know where our grass plane will be. Then we'll make another layer in between these layers. So we'll tap our water layer and then tap the plus. So our new layer will be behind our grass. Then for the brush, I'd actually like to switch to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. I always feel like that gives me a little bit more control compared to the monoline brush. And then for the color, we are going to use this one. That's the second color in the second row. And we are going to make some like rock formations, which will later be covered with lots of bushes. Let's start here at the bottom so we can make a closed shape. We'll start here And then we'll go up here. And then we'll go to the right like this. So now the line touches the side of the canvas here and over here behind our grass. So we can drop in the color and fill this shape. I want another shape over here. So again, I'll start here at the bottom. Then I'll go up. And then let's go to the left like this. And then drop in the color. Next, I'd like to add the green areas here on these rock formations, like the bushes. So we'll make a new layer on top of our rock formation layer. Let's tab the plus. And then for the brush, I'd like to make a custom airbrush. And it could be that you've already made this one in a previous tutorial. So we are going to adjust the hard airbrush. Let's tap it here, then slide to the left and tap duplicate. And then we'll go to our new version. We'll tap it. And I want to give this brush some randomness so we get some nice wobbly effect. So we are going to turn up the jitter to create that wobbly effect. We'll go for like 34%. Let's turn down the spacing a little bit to 7%. And then we'll go to Apple Pencil. And I'd like to set the size to pressure. We are going to slide to the right to max. So with the Apple Pencil, the harder you press, the bigger your brushstroke will become. Then I'd also like to turn down the flow a little bit to around 50%. And then of course, if you like, you could go to about this brush and give your brush a name. I'll just keep it like this, tap done. So now our brush is finished. And now we are going to use it to create those bushes. Let's grab a color. I'd like to use this one. That's the 5th color in the 2nd row. And let's check our size. That's a bit big. Let's make it a bit smaller. Perhaps 20%. Opacity is at 100. And now we can go here and just create a random bushy shape. And add that green. And even if you make a straight line, you will get some randomness. So that's exactly what we want. Let's also add some bushes here. And then over here, I'd like to cover this all with bushes. And I just want a little bit of that rock to be visible. Cover everything here with that green. Maybe make this a little bit higher. We can give a little bit more volume here. Now to add a bit more texture to those edges, we can go to the organic brushes. Let's move up to the rainforest brush, which is perfect for like a foliage effect. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is at 2, so nice and small. Now we can go along the edges and add some more like soft texture, more of that foliage effect. Especially at the top. Makes it a bit less crisp. Next, we are going to make another custom brush, and that will be used for the grass. So let's first make a new layer on top of our grass layer. Let's tap the plus and let's go to our brush menu. And we are going to make a brush from scratch. So you can go to whatever like brush pack you like. You can make it under the airbrushing brushes, or you can make your own little brush pack. Perhaps you have a little brush pack with all kinds of brush experiments. Make it wherever you like. Just need to tap the plus inside that brush pack. And now we can start making a brush from scratch. First, let's decide on our shape. We'll go to shape and then we'll go to edit here, then to import. And then we'll go to source library. Procreate has a lot of standard brush stamps. And we'll go for the slim oval. Then over here, we are going to use 2 fingers to turn it around, and then we'll tab done. Then over here, we'll turn up rotation to follow stroke so that our shape will follow the direction of the stroke. If we don't have this turned on, it looks like this. But when we use this, it'll curve. Let's also turn up the scatter a bit. Let's set it to like 8%. And then we'll scroll down. And I'd like to make this shape a little bit more thin. And you can do that by squeezing it over here. We'll squeeze it to like about the halfway point, like this. Then let's go to stroke path here at the top. I think we can turn up the spacing a bit to like 27%. And we'll turn up the jitter so we get a nice random effect. Let's set it to like 55%. Then let's also add a subtle grain. Over here we can go to edit and then to import and go for the source library again. And I want something simple that's not too distracting. We can go for clouds. It'll give a slight randomness to our brush stroke. Let's tap done. Now let's go to rendering. I'd like to use light glaze so we can like glaze the colors, slowly building it up. It's a bit less opaque. And let's also give this brush a little bit of color dynamics. If we play around with the stamp color jitter, every stamp, so every little line will have a slightly different color. I'd like to turn up the hue to 4% so that the colors, well, let's grab green here, for instance. The colors will slightly vary, very subtly. Then let's go to Apple Pencil and let's lower the opacity and then turn up the flow. That's how much paint comes out of your brush. So the harder you press, the more will come out. Now let's move to properties. Let's turn off orient to screen. And if you like, you can go to about this brush, give your brush a name, so you can easily find it in the future and use it for any other landscape projects. Now we're done. Let's tap done. And let's try this brush out. Let's check it. You can create some nice grass here. Let's just make the brush a little bit smaller. Maybe 25%. Let's see. Well, that's maybe too small. 40 should be nice. Now let's play around with the colors we have for our grass. Let's start with this light one, 4th color in the 3rd row. And let's go over here and create layers of grass. Nicely covering that edge. And over here. And we can make the brush a little bit bigger as we move to the foreground. Let's go for 50. And let's also switch colors. Let's go for this darker one, 3rd color and the 3rd row. And we can layer these colors. And I will go darker as we move to the foreground. We can use the 2nd color and the 3rd row. And this is really just to lay a base for our grass. This is not the end result, but it will really work nicely as a base. Let's go even darker with the 1st color and the 3rd row. Ready for the foreground. And let's just switch to the 3rd color and the 3rd row one more time to add a bit of darker grass over here. Some nice variety. Then now that we're happy with our grass, we can merge it with the other layer. Let's pinch them together and then let's blur this. Let's go to the magic wand and to Gaussian blur and slide to the right. Let's go for 3% and then tap the magic wand again. Now I'd also like to use a motion blur so we can make it blur in a certain direction. Let's go to the magic wand again, then to motion blur, then tap this little triangle and set it to pencil. And for our pencil, let's use the soft brush. And then we can paint over this area, for instance, just like this, the left side. And then we can move our finger over the screen in a certain direction. Like if you rotate, it'll change. I'd like it to be just slightly. Just something like this, maybe 16%. Then let's turn this off. Let's go to the magic wand again, and then use motion blur again, and then use the pencil again. But this time we'll go over this area, because this time I'd like to move it in the other direction, in this direction. So I'll move upward from this corner. So here we are in the corner. We'll move upward a little bit to slightly blur it in that direction. I'm at 17%. Let's turn this off. Let's tap the magic wand again. So now we have some nice blurry grass. Next, let's work on our water some more. Let's go to our water layer. Then let's tap the plus for a new layer on top and set that to clipping mask. That way, whatever we paint here, it'll only show up on our water. For the color, I'd like to use this one, this nice light blue. It's the 7th color in the first row. And for our brush, we can use the soft brush. I'd like to go over the top here, make that quite a bit lighter. And I'd also like to add some lines to the water surface. It's very still, so we'll have some horizontal lines. And to make sure that our lines will be perfectly horizontal, we can go to the wrench, then to canvas, and then we can turn on the drawing guide, then go to edit drawing guide and turn on assisted drawing. Then tap done. And now all of our lines will follow this grid. So our lines will either be horizontal or vertical. Now we don't need the grid. We can turn it off here. We can turn off drawing guide and it'll still work. Now for our brush, I'd like to go to the calligraphy brushes and use the shale brush. Now we'll stick with this color. Opacity should be at 100%. Let's turn down the size to maybe 6%. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's nice. And I'll just go in here and add some of these lines. Let's go even smaller, actually. Let's go for 3%. Just in some random areas, some longer lines, some will be shorter. Just adding some interest to this water. I like how this looks. Now that we have this, let's start working on our clouds. Such a fun part. Let's go to layer 1 and then tap the plus. By the way, if you're happy with your water, you can pinch these two together. So on this layer, we'll work on our clouds. Let's go back to the airbrush we have created, to our hard airbrush that we have adjusted. And then for the color, we'll pick this one. That's our middle color for our clouds. This will be the shadow color. This will be the highlight color. We'll start with the middle one, 5th color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller, no bigger. I mean, 30%. Opacity is at 100. And let's just begin with a big cloud over here. And I'm rotating my brush a little bit, trying to make an interesting shape for our cloud. Here we'll go up again. create something like this. Now let's make another big one over here. Nicely filling this corner. And another big one over here. You don't have to copy my clouds exactly. I think that would be pretty difficult. Just try making a random fluffy shape. And I try to make the bottom part a bit more flat, and at the top, that's where the interesting shapes are. Also add some smaller fluffs, smaller clouds. That will definitely help making this look more dramatic. We can make the brush a little bit smaller, 20%. Little cloud over here. Here to the left. Sometimes you can just add a few little dabs. And then here near the horizon, there will be lots of smaller clouds. They aren't actually smaller, but they are farther away. This will nicely add to the depth. So lots of small shapes here. One over here. Yeah, I think we got a nice cloudy sky here. So then let's start adding the shadow part. First, let's turn on alpha lock on this layer so we can't go outside of these shapes anymore. And then we'll grab that shadow color for our clouds. That's the fourth color in the first row. And now let's add some shadow parts. We'll just create similar shapes as we created before, but smaller inside our cloud shapes. I'm imagining the sun is somewhere over here, high up in the sky. So just go like this. Lower part is in shadow. And some of the lower parts here as well for these distant clouds. And then for this one, a little bit over here. Not too much for those small clouds. Let's focus on the big ones. And then once you have done this, let's tap and hold the smudge tool, the little finger here, so that it switches to our hard airbrush. And then we can use that to soften these areas. Let's make the brush smaller, maybe 20%. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice. Opacity, or like the strength, is at 59%. And let's use that to Make these rounded motions in these areas and soften that transition. And sometimes you can push the light into the dark area a bit, and sometimes the other way around. This will give a nice randomness, nice softness. And of course you can go back to the brush, add in a little bit more. Perhaps you want some crisper edges in some areas where you need some more of this color. Just go back in and then switch back to the smudge tool. Let's make it a bit smaller, 15%, and then blend that in as well. Then let's switch to the light color. Let's first grab the brush and then grab the highlight color for our clouds. That's the 6th color in the first row. And then let's go over the edges and light up the smaller clouds. So we'll just use this on edges of the big clouds, and we'll use it for the small ones. So over here for those distant clouds. You can also add a few of these little fluffs in the middle. You've come such a long way. I think you should be really proud of yourself. Now, I'm actually pretty proud of myself as well, because this week I launched a new tutorial at Patreon, which I'm really excited about. I've been wanting to make it for such a long time because I just really love these interior design illustrations. And at Patreon, I take you through all the steps to create your own, and I promise it's actually really easy. That's what I always strive for, to make things as easy as possible for you and to help you get your drawing and painting skills to that next level. So if you really want to unleash your digital drawing superpowers, or if you simply can't get enough of these Procreate tutorials, then my Patreon is the perfect place for you. I'm really happy to tell you that by now there are more than 200 tutorials there. So it's an unbelievable treasure trove. So I'm hoping to see you there, but now let's continue. Perhaps one over here. And then we can use the smudge tool again to soften that a bit. Just by making some squiggly motions. That will add that nice cloudy texture. Looking good. Now let's blur these clouds just slightly, since they are far away, just like the horizon. Let's tap the layer and turn off alpha lock first, otherwise the edges won't blur. Now let's go to the magic wand, Gaussian blur, and slightly slide to the right. Let's just go for like 2%, very subtle, and then tap the magic wand again. Now I want everything near the horizon to be a bit lighter, like more like hazier. So let's first tap this layer, then tap the plus, then grab the soft brush here at the top and use this light color. And now let's go over here and lighten up that area near the horizon a bit more. Now we are going to add an extra glow to our clouds, which I think looks really floatastic. So to do that, we need to merge these layers, the clouds with the sky. Let's pinch these together. And then we are going to use the bloom feature. I think whenever you have the chance to use the bloom feature, it's super satisfying. Let's go to the magic wand, then to bloom. And now we are going to slide to the right to make those clouds glow. Just not too much. This is just crazy. We need to play around with the features, with the settings. Make the size a bit bigger so we get a nice soft glow around the clouds and not too much of a burn. It's really a matter of tweaking. And what you can do is tap your finger on the screen and then you can use preview. You can tap it and see what it does. I think this looks really nice. Let's go for this. So the bloom is at 27% for me, size at 39, burn at 13, and then let's tap the magic wand. Now that we have our clouds, let's move on to our bushes. Let's go to this layer over here and let's turn on alpha lock. And then for our brush, let's go back to that organic brush, that rainforest brush. And for the color, let's use this one. That's the 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's go over here and make these shapes with some gaps in between. Like the top of this foliage of these bushes gets lit, but underneath there is shadow. So the lower parts should be dark. And you can leave some gaps in between like this. Over here as well. So just some gaps in between. I think we can also go for a bit more of a saturated color. Let's grab this one, 4th color in the 3rd row. So this area is a bit more saturated, a bit more of a brighter green. Just make sure that you leave some of those gaps. Let's also add a little bit of this over here. And then let's go a lighter. Let's grab this color. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 1%. Can go a lot smaller, I guess. And then let's add some lighter touches here. Just on those top parts. Just a little bit of light. So with just a few brush strokes, you can get this effect of foliage here. Now let's go back to this color, 6th color in the 2nd row. I just want a little bit more texture over here. I think that looks nice. Then let's go to our rocks. Let's tap this layer, turn on alpha lock, and now let's first add like a base texture. And to do that, I'd like to go to the industrial brushes and use the Twisted Tree brush. It might be called Twisted Tree, but I think it's great for rock as well. And then for the color, let's grab this 1st color in the 2nd row. So we use that lighter one for the base. Let's check this out. Not sure if you can see it properly on camera. The opacity is at 100%. You should be able to see it on your own iPad. And the size is at 16. Now let's just go over here and add a very basic layer of texture. Then we'll go back to the calligraphy brushes and use the shale brush again. And let's grab this color. That's the 3rd color in the 2nd row. And let's use that over here to make the brush a bit bigger. Maybe 20%, let's see. Yeah, that's nice. Let's make some of these diagonal lines to create the suggestion of some cracks there. Let's do the same over here. So leave some gaps, make some of these diagonal lines. And then we'll switch to this lighter color, fourth color in the second row. And we'll add even lighter touches. We can make the brush a little bit smaller, like 15%. Just make sure that you leave gaps so that gives that suggestion of cracks. Also over here. And maybe this could be like a bit more steep. What we could do is just tap and hold the eraser and then get rid of a little part here. Let's make the brush smaller, 10%. We can make that a bit more steep. Then let's grab the brush again and that darker color, first color in the second row. So we can also make some deeper cracks here. Might not be able to see it very well on camera, but we can add some extra texture. Just again with those slightly diagonal lines. I think this looks good enough for our distant rocks. Let's move on to our grass plane. So let's go to our layer menu, then let's go to our grass plane. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. And then I'd like to go to the treasure chest brush pack. If you don't already have it, please go to freefromflow.com to get it. It's totally free. We're going to use the Stipple 2.0 brush. And for our color, let's grab this one, fifth color in the third row. The opacity is at 100%, the size at 30. And we are going to go over this area and add the suggestion of flowers here. So just add a bunch of stipples. And I don't just want the white ones. I also want some pink in here. Let's grab this color next to it, sixth color in the third row. And add some pink ones in between. And then we are going to blur this a little bit. Let's go to the magic wand, to Gaussian blur, slide to the right just slightly. Let's go for 2% and then tap the magic wand again. Next, we are going to add foreground flowers. We'll tap the plus for a new layer. We'll stick with this color and we'll grab a brush that I have just added to the treasure chest brush pack. It's this flowers brush. It's one of the brushes from my Flotastic landscape brush pack. So if you'd like to be able to add even more types of flowers, go check that in the description because you can get it with a discount. Now for this brush, the opacity is at 100% and the size is at 72. And we are just going to make some random strokes. And you might need to try a few times to get the flowers in the places you want them to be. I think this is nice. Now let's make another layer. Let's tap the plus to add some blue flowers. We'll use this color. That's the, what is it? 8th color and the third row. And again, we'll make some random strokes. And then we'll make another layer. We'll tap the plus and then we'll grab that light color, 5th color in the third row for some light flowers. Maybe some here. I think this looks good. Now we are going to erase a few. Let's first go to our pink flower layer. And let's grab the eraser. Let's set it to, let's go to inking. Let's set it to the studio pen. It has nice crisp edges, so that makes it easy to erase. Let's erase this one. Make the brush a bit bigger, 20%. And I'll erase these small ones over here. Maybe this one. Just trying to balance it out a bit. We'll erase these. Then let's go to the blue layer, the blue flowers. Let's get rid of these in the corner and this one. Of course, yours will look totally different. Get rid of these. Just trying to, yeah, like I said, find a bit of a balance. I'll go to the white layer. Get rid of this one because it's covering the pink one. I think I actually like the way it looks now. Maybe we can use some more pink over here. We can just go back to that layer, grab the pink, and then go here, add another one. Yeah, something like this. Next, I'd like to add some texture to these. Let's tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. Then I'd like to grab the shale brush again. We could go to recent brushes. There it should be, our shale brush. And for the color, I'll grab this slightly darker pink, 7th color in the 3rd row. And let's go to these flowers and add a little bit of like texture here. Going up as if there are these petals. So just short strokes moving to the top. This one. Very simple strokes. Then for the white ones, I'd like to add something as well. Let's grab this yellow, 9th color in the 3rd row. And let's go in here and add these nice centers. Let's go along all of these flowers. Perhaps you'll have to make the brush a bit smaller sometimes. And then we are going to move on and add some shadow to these flowers. Let's start with the pink ones. We'll tap the plus for a new layer and then we'll set that to clipping mask. And then we'll tap the end to change the layer blending mode. We can change it to multiply. And now we can just paint on top with our pink and then it will darken everything up. Or well, at least adjust the flowers since we are using clipping mask here. Now for the brush, let's use the soft brush. It's still in my recent brushes here. And then let's grab our pink, 6th color in the 3rd row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, maybe like 6%. And now these are in the shadow. And for some of the others, let's just darken the lower part of the flower. The top is lit. So just going over the lower part. And for some of these at the bottom, they are even more in shadow. Let's make the lower area a bit darker to nicely guide the viewer to the background, the distant view. To do that, I'd like to use some blue. Maybe this one will do, 3rd color in the 1st row. Let's just check. Yeah, I think that's nice. Maybe even darker. Maybe this one, 2nd color in the 2nd row. That will nicely push them back a little bit. And add some depth to that flower field. Then let's go to our blue flowers. Let's tap the plus. Let's set the new layer to clipping mask. Tap the N, scroll up to multiply, and let's just stick with this color. Let's go over some of the undersides, make these a bit darker. I think that's nice. Then on to our white flowers, we'll tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, tap the N, scroll up to multiply, and then let's go over these white flowers very gently, add some shadow, I think this looks great. Once you're happy with your flowers, you can pinch them together. And then let's go to this layer and make one on top. Let's tap the plus. And for the brush, let's use the shield brush. And for our color, let's use this one, the darkest grass color. First color in the third row. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, maybe 5%. Let's see. I think that should do. Let's make some lines going from the flowers downward to create these stems. But we'll also use this layer to create some more grass. So first let's focus on these flowers. You don't have to make those lines go all the way down to the edge of your canvas, just some short lines. And then let's make the brush a bit bigger, 10% perhaps. Let's also use this layer to just add some extra grass. And we can also use the other color, the second color in the third row. You can also add some lighter strokes, or grab the local color. Simply add a bit more texture, a bit more detail. Then I'd also like to add some yellow touches. Let's grab this color, 9th color in the second row. And I just like to use this to create some dabs. Maybe these are also some flowers, some extra interest here. We can do the same with this pink with the 7th color in the third row. Adding some extra touches. And let's also use this color. That's the 8th color in the second row. We can use that to create some like reed. So make some of these strokes like this. Got some lines going down. Do the same on this side. Now you can make the brush a little bit smaller, like 4% for the lines going down. And then you can just continue with this brush, adding more color variety, just like with the yellows and the light colors. Let's make this bigger again, 10%. You can continue adding extra interesting things until you have something along these lines. To add some final touches of interest to our piece, let's add some rocks in the water and a little house. Let's start with our rocks. Let's go to our water layer over here. Let's tap the plus. And for our brush, let's use the studio pen. And for the color, let's use this one. That's the 10th color in the second row. And let's go in here. And let's just add a few rocks sticking out of the water. Let's make the brush 4% in size. I hope you can properly see it since it's pretty light. to color that in, maybe a bit of a bigger one over here. Just wiggle your way, and then the underside should be pretty much straight. You can drag in the color if you have a filled shape, a closed shape. I can also at the same time see this effect of how this looks way darker because it's on a lighter background than this, as if these are two different colors. It's crazy how color surrounding a color can influence it. Let's drag this in. And of course you can also tap and hold to grab the eraser, make that a bit smaller, 10%. And then you can use that to make shapes more crisp. Just tweak it a bit. And then let's turn on alpha lock on this layer. We'll tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's use our shield brush again. And we'll grab this color, the 5th color in the first row. And we are just going to add some very simple texture. Some light on the left sides. These are very distant rocks, so they don't need a lot of detail. Just a little bit of light. And now we also need some light on the water. So let's go to this layer, and then let's grab that very light color again, 6th color in the first row. And then let's go around and add some light. And over here. Just that water breaking on those rocks. Yeah, something like this. Then for a little house, let's place that over here. I think that's the perfect place for a little cabin. I think you have amazing views if you have a little house there. Let's make a layer on top of this one where we have our rocks. Let's tap the plus. For our color, we'll use this one. That's the 8th color in the first row. Let's go in here and let's make a house over here. Let's actually grab the studio pen again so we can get some crisp lines. Let's make 2 horizontal lines like this. Pointy roof over here. So just a triangle here. And then close the shape here. Make sure the underside is closed and then drag in the color. Then let's create a roof. Let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus. And for the color, we'll use this one, 9th color in the first row. And then we'll make a line like this. And like this. So just like an arrow. Then we'll go in this direction. Extend a bit here. Then another line parallel. And then connect here. So we have this trapezius. That's a trapezius, right? Shape. Or diamond shape. I don't know. Let's color that in. And then let's go back to this layer. Let's tap it and turn on alpha lock. Let's grab our shield brush again and a darker color. We can use this one, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And we can darken the right side of this house. Add a little shadow here. We're making a very simple cabin here. Then a little door. We can make the brush smaller, 3%. And we can use some blue, maybe this color. I hope it's not too bright. 2nd color in the 1st row. Maybe there are these windows reflecting the light. and like the sky. Then let's go to this layer. I think maybe we can move it around a little bit. Let's go to the Move and Transform tool. Just want to change it a little bit. You can turn off snapping if you have that turned on. We can just tweak it a little bit. You can also use Distort to tweak it. I think this is nice. We can grab the eraser to make it a bit more crisp. And let's also use the eraser on this layer because we have this part sticking out. I feel like this house looks a little bit shocked. In any case, let's go to our roof layer. Let's tap it to turn on alpha lock. Then we need our shield brush again. And we need this lighter color, 10th color in the first row. And let's add that here on the front part. And here at the top, a little bit of light. So this is just a very basic cabin. I just do feel like the windows are attracting a bit too much attention. So let's go there with a darker blue, maybe the third one. Let's go in there and use that color. Maybe they're just a little bit big overall. Let's grab this local color. We can just go over here and make them smaller. Maybe the door is a little bit big as well. So that's how you can create a super simple cabin and add it to your scene. Now this is it for our beautiful bay. I hope you have enjoyed the process and I'll see you next time.